Hello and welcome back once again to After the Credits. So, today, made it back over to the theater, saw a couple new movies for once instead of the crap playing over at the Dollar Theater, because apparently the Dollar Theater is in the habit of rerunning movies when they come out on DVD now. Because I put up the review of Norm of the North, and then I went to the store the other night, and Norm of the North is just coming out on DVD, so yeah, apparently that's their thing now. As I saw on their website today, because I was looking to see what else was being put over there, that they're putting back a movie that I was going to go see over there a while ago that they took away before I got a chance to see it, and now it's back up, so I'm guessing it's about to come out on DVD, but we'll see if I get to that one or not. But today I saw some new movies. They opened this week. I waited till Tuesday to go see them just because it'd be cheaper. And there's another issue that I'll discuss with you guys in another video. But for now, I went and saw BarberShop The Next Cut. So what did I think of BarberShop The Next Cut? It was a barbershop movie. It fit in with the other two, I guess, but not really. It kind of falls into the lines like if you actually went to the barbershop regularly to get your hair cut, and you were kind of catching up with everyone that's there, and not every day is the most hilarious day ever, but sometimes you always get those hit and miss days where most days it's a blast down there, and then like one day you go in and it's like, man, nothing's really going on today. And this is kind of that day of the barbershop, I guess. I don't know how many years has passed between BarberShop 2 and this newest one, but it would have had to have been at least a decade, maybe, I don't know, because Ice Cube's son, who was born in the first one, is now a teenager, like 13, 14 years old, something like that. And Ice Cube's having to deal with the issues that come with dealing with a teenage child. I know it's only been a couple years since the last one was made, but still, it's like they're skipping through time. And it's just kind of him dealing with the day-to-day life of raising a teenager in Chicago. And it's almost like this movie probably wouldn't have been made if Ice Cube didn't have something to say. And what I mean by that is this movie is a huge love-hate letter to everything that's been going on in black community lately over the last few years. All the riots in Chicago, the Black Lives Matter movement, just all kinds of stuff that someone who's from Chicago, I could see them getting frustrated and being like, look, I got something to say. And he doesn't really have a platform to, I mean, he could go out and just say it because he is a celebrity, but instead he's like, well, if I do it through this movie, I can say everything I want to say, and because there's other characters in the movie, I can throw out the rebuttals that I would expect to get from people, and then throw out a rebuttal against that from another character, so he can express like all views of it, at least from within his own community, what he sees and what others have, discussed with him, I guess. And that's really the only reason I see that this movie was made. It's like, it doesn't really extend the barbershop storyline that much. It kind of reuses a lot of the old bits from the first two that, kind of guided the movie. So, it kind of hits all those same notes, so it really didn't need to be made. I mean, 2 times of making the same mistakes is probably enough. But it's like he had something to say, he wanted to get it out there, and the easiest way to do it was like, hey, let's write another movie. Okay, well, where do we want to base it? And he's like, oh, the one thing I like about the barbershops is it kind of has everyone from the community, all different aspects of people, the educated, the uneducated, the street educated, the ones who act goofy but are actually really smart, the men, the women, everything from the community comes together in the barbershop. And so I can see that's why he put it into a barbershop movie, is it's his easiest way to bridge that gap. Having all these different characters give their views on the exact same issue. And so I can appreciate it for being that, but without that, this movie probably wouldn't have gotten made. This movie doesn't really have a leg to stand on outside of that agenda. Not that it's a bad agenda, you know, it's just without that, this movie probably wouldn't exist. We'd be stuck with Beauty Shop being the third in the series, which actually it still is. That's why this one isn't called Barbershop 3. It's just called Barbershop The Next Cut. So I guess they're kind of saying, you know, this is the third Barbershop, but technically the fourth film. So, I don't know. So what's the movie actually about? We come back to the barbershop, which apparently when the recession hit, he again had trouble keeping the doors open, you know, just like he did in the first and second one. Well, more the second one than the first one. And in order to survive, they actually merged with the beauty shop next door that was introduced in the second one. No Queen Latifah, because she's still off wherever making her beauty shop stuff. But the other girl who was there with Queen Latifah, who was kind of running the shop, the beauty shop, they've decided to merge together, so they kind of knocked down the wall in between their two shops and made it into one big shop. So now we have a lot more dynamic and a lot more feminine dynamic, other than just Eve's character, who, again, is still kind of like this. I mean, she's got this attitude, and I don't know why they always portray her with the attitude. You figure after 2 movies, coming into the third one, she would have learned to drop the attitude, but I guess that's just her character. Some of the old faces are still around. Some of the old faces have gone, and other new faces have come in. I think the first person we see getting his haircut is the one white guy who used to work at the shop, who got real popular in the second one and then got knocked down a peg. He's actually getting his hair cut in this one, but he doesn't work at the shop anymore. They don't really say what he does anymore, but he's just not there. The politician kid that used to work there, he's still a politician. Cedric the Entertainer's character is still there. Eve's still there. But for the most part, everyone else is different now. The African dude, the heavyset guy, he's gone now. And I think he was the one that was dating the owner of the beauty shop, if I remember right. So I don't know where he went, but he's gone. The one, what was his name? The lighter-skinned, thuggish kind of guy who was getting his, who was going to night school in the second one, who actually started dating Eve, he's gone. There's another guy there now that she's dating. Or actually, she got married to, I should say. So yeah, like a lot of the old characters moved out, a lot of new characters have moved in, some of the same ones are still there. The other old guys who used to hang around and give Eddie shit, Cedric the Entertainer's character, they're gone, but there's this other guy who just kind of hangs around all day. So he's there. So it's not really the same dynamic. It's kind of the same thing that happened with the Friday movies. Like, you have Friday, which was good, then you try to do Next Friday, which was okay, you know, but it didn't have all the same characters. You're trying to introduce all these new characters with this new cast, and it just didn't feel the same. And then they just kind of kept going with that new cast where, I don't know, this one, if they had explained, you know, obviously it's supposed to be a few years later. So that would explain why some people have gone, some new people have come in, but they don't really explain that. You know, they could have had like a montage of things changing over the years and to bring us up to where we are now. But then you'd have to pay those other actors to come back, and if you're going to do that, you might as well have them in the film, right? So basically, the barbershop is doing its thing like always. Like I said, they had to merge with the beauty shop. There's the gang wars and riots and stuff that are going on in Chicago, and they're kind of having issues with that because it's getting out of hand, and they decide that for the sake of the neighborhood, they talk to the two gang leaders who each have standing appointments at the barbershop, but at different times. They usually try and like balance them to where this one's not here when this one's here, because they'll be at war with each other. But they bring them both in together, and they at first there's tension, then they kind of calm down, like, look, we just want a 48-hour ceasefire. That's it. And during that 48-hour ceasefire, we're going to give free cuts and stylings and everything else to anyone that comes in. We just want 2 days apiece. Can we arrange that? So the two guys agree to a 48-hour ceasefire, and during that time, Ice Cube is trying to deal with his son because his son's starting to get bad grades in school, starting to fall in with the wrong crowd. He thinks he's going to join a gang. He finds some gang paraphernalia in his bedroom. So he's dealing with that whole issue, and he finds it hard to deal with that and what's going on at the shop at the same time. So then again, he's thinking about selling the shop and moving the shop uptown where it's nicer and all that. And he's looking at some places and puts down a down payment on a place without talking to his business partner, who's actually half owner in the shop now since they merged. He's just basically going to bail out on her and leave her high and dry. Which, again, is kind of like what you saw in the first one. He's secretly kind of selling the shop and stuff because he doesn't want it. Then in the second one, he borrows some money for whatever reason and doesn't pay it back in time, or whatever the hell happened in the second one. So it's always him trying to get out of it and screwing himself up, and then everyone trying to remind him, this is who you are. And he even says at one point in the movie, he hasn't wanted to be there in years. The only reason he still comes is because they're all his friends and they're all there. But yeah, so he kind of gets himself into that hot water again, and then he has to work his way out of it. At the same time dealing with whether or not his son's about to join a gang and all this. And they introduce this one character in the movie who, big spoiler, ends up getting killed during the ceasefire. They never really explain, if there's supposed to be a ceasefire, how did this person get shot? But as soon as they introduced him in the movie, it's like, yeah, this guy's not going to make it to the end of the movie. As soon as things kick off, he's going to be the one that gets killed. It was just really obvious, and they introduced him so fast like that, and it was so obvious that's what was going to happen to him. You really didn't get time to invest in the character. Like, if he had been a character that had been around in the first two, and you're like, oh man, that character got killed, it might have been more in depth and a little bit more sad. But it's like they introduce him in the beginning of this film, and then by the end of the film, he's gonna die. He ends up dying, and then everyone's like all sad, and it's like, I had no emotional investment into that character. It would have been like, had Eve gotten killed or something, it would have been like, oh man, she's been around in the first two, she got killed, she's not going to be around in the future ones. And they could have honestly did that with any of the characters that have been written out at this point. Had one of them get killed early on, it might have been emotional, or had them be around for most of the movie and then get killed. But they couldn't do that, and with a lot of the newer characters, like I said, they're just now getting established, so killing one of them off, it just didn't have the emotional tie to, if you were a fan of the first two movies, that you would have had. So they successfully do this ceasefire for 48 hours, and at first, the whole first day is not really going that well, because it's not really it's not generating the news popularity that it should be. But then eventually some celebrities start showing up, and the whole thing blows up, and there's all kinds of news and white media and everything, and random white people running around the basically ghettos of Chicago, and it's like, yeah, you guys don't belong here, but okay. And it's like the most stereotypical white people do, like sorority girls. I think they showed that in the trailer, where the sorority girls run up and want to take a picture with Ice Cube, and the one guy's like, are they lost? So it's like people that normally shouldn't be in that general area are there. Like I said, a lot of white media, because apparently there's no black reporters at Fox News, I guess. I don't know. They do reintroduce the character from the first one. I can't think of the actor's name, but he was basically one of the two guys that stole the ATM in the first one. He's running this food delivery service where, like, he's basically a food truck, and, like, when you pay him, he says he's donating the profits to the Boys and Girls Club, and apparently he's not really doing that. He just says he is so he can file as a non-profit organization. There is an appearance by YouTube sensation Auntie Fee, if you know her. She's apparently his aunt in this movie, or some relation to him. I forget what he said. But basically she's the one running the kitchen and having all the people cook for her, and then he's going out and selling it. You know, and they have this little thing about, you know, you may be the talent, but I'm the face, and all this. And yeah, so, I mean, that's kind of a funny moment, but again, just like the ATM theft in the first one, it's kind of out of place. It kind of like breaks away from the main story, and let's go follow this little jokey character. And it didn't really need to be there, but it was nice to see them bring back an older character like that, and to see that he's sort of reformed. I don't even remember why I brought that up other than saying it was there. But yeah, so, I was saying that all the people started showing up to recognize the ceasefire was going on. And the one thing I didn't like about this movie is it really didn't have a resolve. Like in the first two, there was a resolve at the end. You know, Craig kind of, Ice Cube's character kind of figures out, wait, was his name Craig in this one? Or am I thinking of Friday? I don't remember. But yeah, so Ice Cube's character, you know, in the first one, realizes that he loves the shop and gets the shop back and stays there. In the second one, he has a little battle with the guy over the money, but he eventually resolves it, and everything's fine. In this one, they don't really resolve anything. It's like, yeah, you had a 2-day ceasefire, and then what? And I guess there was like this county commission vote on, they were going to kind of like block off certain streets and like build like a cage, I guess, around the gang-heavy area. And they wanted to have like one flow of traffic coming in, one flow of traffic going out, so they could kind of monitor who was going in and out and kind of regulate, I guess, keep the gangbangers out. But most of them live there, so how the hell would you do that? And you know, it's like, well, that way we can keep the violence out. And it's like, that doesn't really work. So I guess they were going to have this vote, and that's what the politician kid who used to work at the barbershop comes in to tell them. You know, it's like everyone should show up and vote. And then I guess with the ceasefire, it was to try and convince people that you don't need to wall us off. We can sort this out on our own. So then it's like they never tell whether the vote passed or not. It's just like at the end he's just kind of like, well, you know, they still haven't decided on it, but after what happened this weekend, I don't see how they could pass it, but they may still pass it, and then that was it. And so there's really no resolve in this one. It's like I said before, you know, Ice Cube just had this thing he wanted to say about what's going on in the world right now, and he wanted to cover all arguments of it, all aspects of it, and his easiest way to do that was through a barbershop movie. But once he said what he had to say, it was like, okay, where's the rest of the story? And there just wasn't one there. And it opens with him kind of narrating these letters to Chicago, and like the first one, he's kind of angry with Chicago, like, you know, we need to talk. And then the ending one, he's just kind of like, you know, I was hard on you before, but the thing I love about living in Chicago and growing up here is, you know, no matter what happens, we always find a way around it. And he just kind of leaves it at that. And it's like, where's the end of your film? You know, I understand your message here, but you made a film. You have to have an ending to the film, and that was not an ending. I mean, he resolves his issue of he decides to not open another shop uptown. You know, he resolves the issue with his son and the gang. And, you know, he comes back to his love of the shop again, once again, for the third time in a movie. But it doesn't really resolve anything. It's like, yeah, we knew that was going to happen. Where's the rest of the story? And I guess he can't really write the rest of the story because the events in Chicago, I guess, are still playing out. And we don't really have a resolve yet, so I guess it's kind of a left open for a sequel, but he didn't leave enough here to really sequel bait either. It's not like, you know, I don't know. It is what it is. If you like the other Barbershop movies, check it out. You might like it. There's not as much comedy in this one. I mean, the bits where they're actually in the shop doing the shop thing, they're funny, but not nearly as funny as, like, the first two. It's kind of the weakest of the four movies. Honestly, Beauty Shop had more to offer than this did. At least that was a story that had a beginning, middle, and end. Yeah, this one it kind of fell flat. And like I said, I understand why he made it, because he had something to say, but beyond that, he didn't finish the movie, really. And like I said, I kind of understand why he didn't, but at the same time, as a movie, it should have had some type of resolve that it didn't. So as far as a star rating on this one, sorry to say, I had to give it like a 2. I was going to say a 2.5, but I mean, I feel that I should give it higher than a 2 just because, like I said, he did have something he was trying to say, and I think he did a good job of saying it through this movie, but you can't sacrifice the art in favor of the message. You know, you still have to follow a structure, you still have to have an ending, and it just wasn't there. And even, like I said, the comedy aspects of it just weren't as strong as in the first two. It just relied really heavily on this thing going on in Chicago and what he wanted to say about it, and he kind of forgot that, you know, there's a movie going on here too. We have to follow the structure. So yeah, as much as it's a middle of the road movie, because the other ones I probably would have called a middle of the road movie, even though they were kind of funny at times. Those probably would have been a 3. This one, like I said, I kind of want to knock it down to a 2.5, but at the same time, because it failed to follow a structure, that it has to go lower. And I hate to do that because it does have a strong message to it, but overall, yeah, it's a 2. Like I said, if you like the first two, check it out. You might enjoy it, but it's very telegraphed, very, very agenda heavy, and very unending, no resolve. So just kind of be prepared for that going into it. Yeah, I think a 2 is my final rating on that. So that is it for this episode of After the Credits. That is the review for Barbershop The Next Cut. I do got one more coming up, at least for this week. And until then, again, as always, thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, rate, subscribe, share the video. Links are, over here, away from the microphone, up there, or down here in the description somewhere, or down there. Remember to follow me on all the social networks. They're all listed down there as well. And until next time, we will see you after the credits.